limonada and seltzer.
The fuck is Luminata?
Limonada.
What?
Oh.
You know, like Italian lemonade. With like San Pellegrino.
Oh.
Limonada.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. I thought it was like.
Did it come out weird in the hybrid New York, Massachusetts?
Yeah,
accent?
I was a little bit weirded out because I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, you were really aggressive about that, Randall, as if it was a personpersonal affront that you didn't know a beverage.
What the fuck is this?
You've been betrayed by so many beverages.
No.
It's been like my go-to drink lately, limonada.
I maybe it is just the Massachusetts kind of thing.
Limonata. How's that?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, now I'm getting it.
Now he understands completely. Yes, it's all registering now.
I need it in like a very, let's say, exaggerated form.
Yeah, we pulled from our Mediterranean stock for that one.
Yeah. And speaking of exaggerated form, welcome to You're No Fun Anymore, the podcast where we deal with our nostalgia. I'm Randall.
I'm Dana.
I'm Bryce.
I'm Alexandra.
And I'm Helen. And we're all split up and the vibe is so weird. And I went totally out of order for me.
Also,
really
it's funny because the photos for me are in counterclockwise order of how people say
really?
them. Yeah.
Yeah, we are fully separated, all of us.
Well, I don't know if our devoted listeners know that Helen and Alex are usually sitting next to each other when we have these conversations.
I posted photos sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be harder or easier to tell our voices apart?
You should have Helen in one ear and Alex in another.
Storyline and stereo.
I love storyline and
lucky
stereo.
people who have to sit in between us when we go to a movie, and it's just.
I.e. Dana.
Why would anybody be willing to sit between you two in a movie?
I have done that so many times, and it genuinely is storyline and stereo.
Were you like separating them because they were in trouble? Like what? Like what is your logic there, Dana?
I think it always ends up being like just randomly how the
as
scene
we walk
happens.
into
how we file into the theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm kind of like a strident front in line walker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very true.
I like the storyline and stereo. That sounds like an album title.
I'm very good at coming up with storyline monikers. It's kind of been my thing. I came up with the storyline
for like 20 years now.
I know. Storyline is all me.
Yep. Storyline is Dana.
Speaking of monikers, we have to talk about the film that we're going to be
talking about.
I guess talking about. Oh,
I'm right there with you, Randall.
Can we all not say words today?
You messed everything up, Alex and Helen. This is all your fault.
Doesn't even mean
1987's
again.
The Witches of Eastwick, or 3 Women and a Man Baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love it.
Oh, I have so many titles for this. So
my other suggestion was The Devil Made Me Do It.
Love it. I originally went with The Dirty Coven.
Nice.
Little play on The Dirty Dozen. The Faust and the Sorceresses.
Oh no, too many.
That's stretching it. That's stretching it. This one is for the hardcore fans. Hellman and Woman Spew the Hard Way. If you are a big Cher fan, you'll appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's her album with Greg Allman, whom she was married to.
Oh.
For like a hot second in the 70s.
I remember that actually.
Really? Why?
You don't remember that? You weren't alive.
No, I just remember I loved Cher.
Yes.
And Sunny.
Love Cher.
Love Cher.
Yeah.
In the quiet town of Eastwick, where nothing ever changes, 3 beautiful women are about to discover powers they never dreamed they had.
Who should we be looking for? He should be really handsome. Nice eyes.
Now, the man of their dreams is here.
Jane, at last we meet.
To stay for a spell.
Who are you? Just your average, horny little devil.
With the Witches of Eastwick.
We could do things you haven't any idea.
You know what's going on up in that house?
She says she sees the devil here in Eastwick.
If you were the devil, would you come to Eastwick?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you going to seduce me too?
Women, a mistake? Or did he do it to us on purpose?
Jack Nicholson, Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer. The Witches of Eastwick.
Hocus pocus.
Content warning. This selected film may contain scenes depicting the following: supernatural violence, misogyny, murder, rampant innuendo, frank sexual discussions and situations, outdated ethnic epithets, negging, slut-shaming, projectile vomiting, mild body horror, drinking, boisterous moralizing, poor driving, inappropriate food wasting, blasphemous pontification, improbable gravity-defying hairstyles, magical wardrobe changes, and smoking. And now, back to your regularly scheduled podcast.
Did you ever kind of like imagine that we were related to Cher? Like
yes,
Cher was like
100%. Like she was like related to us because of the hair. Yeah, 100%.
I was like, in my heart, I felt like Cher was my family.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yes, the hair, because holy shit, the hair in this movie.
Can we start with talking about the hair? Because I don't know what they did, but that is the hair I have been trying to give myself for the past like 5 years.
You need a curly hair. Tina, you need
a blowout.
Like Michelle Pfeiffer's hair.
Oh, Michelle Pfeiffer's
specifically.
Before it gets really curly?
Yeah.
Yes, when it gets really curly, and it's like that perfect beach wave that I cannot accomplish no matter
Michelle
how hard I try.
Pfeiffer.
You need to have sex with the devil.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
there you go.
And yeah,
That's what it is. I have to trade my soul for a beach wave.
Yep.
does being witches make your hair super curly?
No, because they were witches beforehand. All right. So before we get into this,
Randall,
That's not totally clear. But anyway, let's
in the book. No,
in the book, it's very clear that they are.
Alex, had you seen this movie before?
Oh yeah, a couple times.
Am I the only one?
You hadn't seen it?
no,
What is this
I had not
nonsense?
seen this.
I had only seen it once when I was young, so I didn't remember much of it. I think I really only remembered the very end.
I also conflate this and Death Becomes Her a lot.
Yeah, very
Okay, I don't know
similar
how that
vibe.
happened.
Because I'm constantly like expecting Cher to have that porcelain face that's in Death Becomes Her, because that horrified me as a child, the porcelain face.
Porcelain face? What are you talking about?
In Death Becomes Her, one of them has a porcelain face at one point. It cracks.
Yeah.
Oh, not
That's-
porcelain.
yeah,
it's when the
at the end.
the spray starts breaking apart.
Yeah.
But in my
That
head,
makes more sense.
it's
Okay.
like porcelain.
I think we definitely watched it at our cool aunt's
Well, I mean,
house.
these are very, very similar in vibe, where it's rah 80s
sex romp
attempt at
Girl power, but not girl power at all.
Yeah. But, for a John Updike satirical novel, this is very, very ahead of its time.
It is totally. In that whole conversation with like Cher telling off the devil at the first instance.
Oh, yeah.
And then she falls into bed with him. So
I know. That's the thing is like, I feel like I based a lot of my personality off of Cher's character at the beginning of that movie, where she's like just tearing into him and I like has no patience for his complete ass hattery.
Yeah.
I'm going, but because the movie skirts the line of feminism better, but the
book's bad.
It's the exact opposite. It's all about how women love tearing each other down and destroying one another.
Really? That's disappointing.
In the book, they give cancer to another woman.
Yeah.
Because she stole their boyfriend.
Because she stole their boyfriend. Yeah.
That's sad.
Well, all right. We're getting into this way too much right now.
I haven't read the book.
I don't know if I'm gonna.
All right.
So Bryce, you had never seen it.
I'd never seen it, and I knew it was one of those like, oh, this is a hole in my film viewing history. It's very surprising that I haven't seen it, but I just didn't. And I don't know why I didn't see it. I just,
it makes sense. It's pretty racy.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a period in your childhood where it would have been appropriate for you to see
it.
It's
when you actually had to search
we
out.
saw it was because we had like a cool aunt who had HBO.
That's exactly how I saw it.
Even if I had started watching this as a kid, I would have run screaming from the room at the word pussy.
Right.
Because between the ages of 9 to like 17, like my psyche couldn't deal with that word. My spirit would leave my body to escape from hearing that word.
Which is ironic considering how much you love cats.
Exactly. I don't love cats right now because one of them is behind the computer being an asshole. 1 second, please.
I miss my cats.
Yeah, that's fair.
Good. They're sleeping.
Well, before we get any farther than this, I will say, my first exposure to this, I watched this when I was in middle school. And again, it was one of those free HBO weekends, and then you tape everything.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah. So we just had annals of tapes of like 3 movies per tape, and just
first it was pussies, and now it's anals and
annals.
And I ate all this shit up. So the thing that I remember from this mostly is basically the last 30 minutes of this movie.
Yep,
totally.
Because it's amazing. It is basically a living cartoon.
Eating it up. Eating up all the ham.
Oh. I think that Randall and I had very similar first experiences with this, because I'm pretty sure I saw the last 30 minutes because my parents were watching it, and they used to ban me from the room when they were watching adult movies, but then I would come down like 20 minutes before it was over, and it just wasn't worth sending me out of the room again. So I would always see the end of the movie. So I have a very strong recollection of that last half hour of the movie.
Cherries. Oh, that speech in the church is, I mean, talk about like proto devil's advocate, you know?
Totally.
Laying it out. Like,
who was a better devil, though? I think Jack Nicholson was a better devil.
I think Jack Nicholson was having more fun.
It's arguable. Yeah. Before we get way too into this, I want to set up the year because holy shit, it is 1987.
You still have things to say about 1987, Randall?
I have a
Helen,
ton.
Randall has said he can pull all the 1987 facts he wants.
He like talks about 1987 like just muttering to himself.
I'm just gonna write a book, really and it's just gonna be about this year.
It's gonna be called Picture It, 1987.
Yeah, picture it, Sicily.
Get really confused between 1987 and 1984.
87 was the 2018 of the 80s when everything happened.
Here's a big marker. The year is 1987. And the reason why I figured this is because the birth rate in the United States was higher than any previous year in nearly a quarter of a century. Hello, millennials. Yeah. With an estimated 3,829,000 births in this year, according to the National Center of Health Statistics. This is the most since 1964. So that gives you a span of how many babies were born. Remember, we talked about the baby boom for a long time, and this is exactly what that was.
Wasn't baby boom 87?
Yeah, there you go. This would also be met with the lowest marriage rate since 1977, oddly enough, at 9.9 marriages per 1,000 people.
Wow.
Speaking of babies now feel pain. That's according to the American Academy of Pediatrics. At this moment would be the first year to formally declare it is unethical to operate on newborns without anesthetic.
Oh my God. You mean they used to operate on newborns without anesthetic?
Yes.
The fuck?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Prior to this point, it was common practice, meaning 77% of infant or newborn surgeries, to only administer a muscle paralyzer and then maybe intermittent nitrous oxide, meaning you were debilitated but still felt pain.
Oh my God.
And all of those children became serial killers.
1953.
Well, that's why they all came out of the 70s and early 80s.
One of the common beliefs that came out of this old time thinking is that infants were indifferent to pain or hadn't developed the capability of pain because they kept failing like pinpoint, basic tests, which
but I'm sorry, also like this tiny little thing that cries if it has gas in its stomach, it's gonna be like impervious to pain.
Oh yeah, so basically you're gonna paralyze its entire body so it can't move and then just cut into it. Yeah, real fun.
That is really upsetting, Randall.
Yeah, in lighter
saving
news,
that one for this.
I mean, it kind of fits because there's a lot of baby shit, and it's also
like
weird pain shit that comes under this. Also, in a lighter news, in fashion, Marc Jacobs would become the youngest designer to win the Perry Ellis Award, the prestigious prize for new fashion talents from the Council of Fashion Designers here in New York City. He's also one of the first U.S. designers to adopt the skirt for men after Jean-Paul Gaultier reintroduced it in his line in 1985. He still does this every once in a while, which is kind of fun. In Mexico, we're going to take a little trip down south. The pre-Hispanic colonial spiritual roots of the, curanteros, the primary term for native healer or shaman, which exists throughout Latin America, begins to see a revival this year, according to an article that sprang up earlier in the spring in the Los Angeles Times, spurred by traditions as well as the current economic crisis throughout Mexico that was happening at the time. People were abandoning the years of Catholic Church education efforts to disapprove of it. The practices actually saw so much of a popularity surge that you would see the shamans that would actually be working in hand with city governments to encourage health workers and other agents to start working in tandem for births, for, basic health care, even beginning to register them. How does the meeting go? Reject modernity, embrace tradition. This year would also see the famed ice cream company Ben & Jerry's introduce one of their most popular flavors.
Cherry Garcia?
Cherry Garcia.
Yeah.
Yes, based on a fan submission who later won a year's supply of ice cream. The flavor would become their best seller for 10 years until the record was broken in 2013 when it was usurped by Half Baked. But it still remains one of their highest selling flavors to date.
Because it's still one of their best flavors.
Yeah.
My favorite was always the New York Super Fudge Chunk.
I do love the Super Fudge Chunk. It is really tasty.
So good. It's got like all the chocolates.
Oh, yeah.
All of them.
This is not the only cherry news. Heading to the Midwest, at the Traverse City Cherry Festival this year, locals from the city band together to bake the world's largest cherry pie in history, not for just the glory, but mostly for the best reason that any small town does anything: petty spite against another city.
Nice.
As the city of Charlevoix.
Stop picking
Michigan?
These names, Randall. You don't have to do this to yourself.
I don't pick it. Look, Charlevoix, Michigan held the record 11 years earlier with a staggering 28,350 pounds and spanning over 17 feet in diameter. They put the nearby neighbor to shame.
It's not wasteful at all.
By over 10,000 pounds.
And who ate this cherry pie?
Oh, they all ate it.
I like that you chose the cherry pie on purpose because of the cherries in the movie.
Yeah. Oh, I did.
Good job.
He doesn't just put random facts, folks.
There's always synergy.
That's great.
Time at the last minute, but time nonetheless.
Yeah. This feat would also be short-lived, as the title would go to the Oliver Rotary Club in Canada and British Columbia.
Canadian.
With a 37,000-pound pie in 1990.
A lot of pie.
That food could feed a lot of homeless people.
Yeah, that is a lot of cherry pie.
That's like the giant cheese wheel in the White House.
You can actually still go to Traverse City and see.
There's still leftover pie?
No. The tin that they actually bake the pie in. It is considered the world's largest pie tin now.
Nobody would want leftover. There's no way there's leftover.
No. It was all. It was
I'm
all
sure
eaten
some
or
very
thrown
enterprising Midwestern housewife packed it all into Tupperware, and it's still sitting in some deep freeze.
It's still sitting somewhere. Yeah, somebody's saving it like you save wedding cake. You know, it's just like in the back of your freezer.
Yeah.
So we're going from the Midwest. We're going back to the West Coast. Pope John Paul II visits San Francisco for a whole 21 hours, complete with photos of him at the Golden Gate Park overlooking the bridge, getting to meet Clint Eastwood as well as other elected officials because he was
the mayor at the time.
Yeah, he was a mayor at the time.
Are you kidding me? He was the mayor of Carmel, California.
Yep, he just got elected the year before.
God.
Yeah. A ride in the Pope-mobile through downtown San Francisco, and of course, scores and scores of demonstrators protesting the papal trip due to the recent anti-gay statement issued by the head of the Sacred Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith, Cardinal Ratzinger. Called.
I thought you were going to say Richelieu for a second, and I was like, wrong movie.
Ratzinger was the future Pope, right?
Yeah, that's the same guy.
Yeah,
he was Pope Benedict the 16th or whatever the fuck he called himself.
Yeah,
the big anti-gay guy. So he called the letter the Pastoral Care of Homosexual Persons, which addressed being gay as having a strong tendency towards an intrinsic moral evil and called it a disorder.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
that was the guy that looked like the devil.
Like, yeah.
The most evil Nazi. Literal Nazi. Yeah.
Oh, literal Nazi.
Yeah. We don't need to go off on the Pope for an hour. Let's just keep
going. One such group was the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who had an exorcism of the Pope at Union Square.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, which was actually covered by local news at the time, broadcast before he actually showed up. So they cut from the exorcism to the Pope showing up.
So it didn't work.
Which is amazing.
Love it.
San Francisco never changed.
By the way, you might recognize the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith by its original name, the Roman Inquisition.
No.
You never expect the Roman Inquisition.
Yeah, that's who Benedict was the head of at that time.
Surprising.
And of course, this year would be the 113th Kentucky Derby, and the 2-1 huge favorite to win, Demons Be Gone, would end up not even finishing as his jockey Pat Day would pull him off immediately after the first turn when he noticed blood pouring out profusely from both nostrils of the horse.
Oh, no. I don't like this fact.
Baby torture and horse bleeding. I don't like any of this.
But while it shocked the Derby crowd at the time, the horse would actually live a long and pretty successful career as a racehorse, amassing 7 wins out of 14 with a record of over 600,000 in earnings before retiring to stud in 1989.
So he just had a bloody nose?
Yeah.
It must have been really dry out, or like his allergies were acting up, you know?
Yep.
Like sometimes it just gets really dry up there.
Yeah. And speaking of an aging stud spewing fluids from their faces.
That's 3 in 1 episode.
He's so proud of himself, guys. Look at that smile on his face.
Can't see it because of the mustache.
You know how I worked for this? Okay, so there was an exorcist, an actual exorcist, who claimed that he knew the horse was going to fail beforehand, and he was written up in like a whole bunch of newspapers at the time. It's ridiculous.
Okay.
1987 is wild, folks.
It was the
it's
80s.
wild.
Yeah, satanic panic and all that malarkey.
June 12th, 1987, the Witches of Eastwick would take the number 2 spot with 9.4 million in a busy pack of openers. The number 1 release, of course, is Predator, taking number 1 with 1,600 screens, which means that actually Witches beat it out per screen average.
Nice.
Last month's big comedy holdover, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which was one of the highest grossing movies of the year. The Untouchables and fellow premiere, Martin Sheen horror thriller, The Believers, rounding out the top 5. Also of note, I have to mention this because it's the saddest thing ever. The other premiere this week was the tragedy that was acclaimed genre workhorse director Richard Fleischer's film, $1 Million Mystery. It was a Dino De Laurentiis produced, let's say homage to It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And it was a promotional tie-in with Glad trash bags.
Oh my God.
It failed terribly. Richard Fleischer, who did like Soylent Green, who did like, the guy's been around for ages, and this was his last film.
Trash
and it's really,
what?
Yeah. It was a contest. You could actually submit by mail where you think the money was hidden, and then you would win a prize. And it ended up going to like some 14-year-old girl in the middle of like Ohio. Yeah, it was sad. It was really sad.
That's bizarre.
Witches would overtake number 1 the next week. Over newcomer Roxanne. Hello.
Roxanne.
Yeah.
Come full circle.
Witches would be one of the top 10 highest grossing films in 1987, which is not a slouch, with over 63.7 million in its total haul. It would be nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Sound and Best Score, and it would win a BAFTA for visual effects, as well as the triple win for Jack Nicholson from the LA Film Critics Association, the New York Film Critics Circle, and the Saturn Awards. Though the LA one was a tie with Steve Martin, to be fair. None of the women won, which I feel is
travesty.
They got nominated, but
because they all cancel each other out.
Because Michelle Pfeiffer and Cher were great.
I mean, their hair alone could have won any prize that you wanted to have.
Why would you leave Susan Sarandon out of that?
I said all their hair. Like
Helen has issues with Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon almost run me over with a scooter at Union Square one time.
Her kids almost ran me over.
Apologize. Did not even bat an eyelash.
Her kids almost ran me over with the scooter.
Are you kidding me?
She was thinking about ping pong. You can't blame her.
I would say Susan Sarandon.
That doesn't mean it wasn't a good performance.
They should all have their scooter licenses revoked.
Years later, I interviewed her for the movie Enchanted, and she was lovely to talk to and much more interesting than Amy
absolute
Adams.
Delight.
I talked to her when she came to go see The Rise and Fall of Arturo Ui at my college.
She's dead to me forever.
Having worked at Film Forum, and both her and Tim Robbins, I have friends of mine that have issues with them, but you know what? I've always had pleasant experiences, and she's a delight. I would also like to add, this is probably the best glam up that she's had since Rocky Horror.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm. that first reveal of her in the tennis outfit.
A tiny
Dear
little
God.
skirt. Yeah, it's pretty intense.
That tulle skirt that she shows up to like.
I would wear that entire outfit.
And the like crop top stripe.
You mean her Carrie Bradshaw
Oh my God,
I would
it's
wear all these
amazing.
outfits. I need to do the Cher hair clip as pigtail holders.
Oh, the big butterfly clips.
It's so good.
Yeah.
With the
Cher's outfit with the overalls, wonderful.
Overalls, everything great.
Yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer's.
Honestly,
I really love Cher, guys.
So good.
Honestly, I'm gonna jump ahead in this because like This is costume designer Aggie Gerard Rogers.
So good.
All of this stuff, it's perfect in the sense that you get the same sense. Like Roger Ebert said in this, a lot of time this movie plays like a plausible story about implausible people.
Yeah.
And the costume design is the same kind of feeling. It is so over the top, but yet real.
Especially with freaking Jack Nicholson and his like silk bathrobes and like man shorts all the time. Like the man shorts he's just wearing constantly.
The blousey man shorts that look like a
blousey
skirt.
Man shorts. Yeah. Like he reminds me, who's that artist who always wears pajamas? Julian Schnabel.
Yeah.
He literally shows up to like openings in silk pajamas. Like these are the kind of people that you meet, like those kind of weird eccentric.
But this is 100%. If I had the money and the wherewithal and the like lack of personal responsibility, this is the shit I would wear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I would wear a ball gown one day and I would wear overalls the next, and then it would just be like a swimsuit at the grocery store the next day.
Absolutely. And Jack Nicholson's whole wardrobe gets like a special shout out in the credits. It's like a dedicated wardrobe from Cerruti.
Yeah, which is weird because like I found his outfits were actually like the least interesting things about this film.
True.
Randall was mesmerized by his little tiny ponytail.
Oh my god! I was just gonna say that.
It was so bad. Gross.
But now every guy I know has tried that look in the late 2000s.
I'm sorry, all of the men in the world. It is a terrible hairstyle.
It's a terrible look.
But it's the perfect detail, isn't it? Like that tiny little ponytail tells you everything you need to know about him.
Yep.
No matter how much he tells you he loves women, and no matter how much he like goes off about what a miracle it is that
he's quoting philosophers,
create babies, and then create milk to feed those babies. You just take one look at that little fucking douchey ponytail, and you're like, oh, I know exactly who you are.
I completely agree with you on that, Helen. But on the other hand, if somebody came to me and said, I will give you near unlimited power and agency in the world and amazing hair and amazing outfits, and you could live in a mansion with your two best friends while engaging in what seems to be a mutual satisfying polyamorous relationship,
jumping into it,
I would say yes. I would sign up immediately, douchey ponytail or no.
That was actually one of the reviews at the time. Ruth Crawford wrote that. This is a quote from her. By far the most fantastic of them is the depiction of a single mother of 5. It's actually 6. Who had to work
7 by the end of the movie.
Yeah. Who had to work for a living and still has plenty of time and energy left to engage in wild adventures of sex and magic. If being a witch gives you those abilities to do that, quite a few women I know would be very happy to sign up at the nearest coven.
Yeah. Can we pause this for just a second? Because I would like to discuss the fact that Michelle Pfeiffer, I looked this up, Michelle Pfeiffer was 29 years old.
Yeah, she's the youngest out of all of them.
So she had 6 children by the age of 29, and her body remained exactly the same as if she'd never had a single child.
She's a witch.
She's a witch.
Hey, I was going to say, they're already witches.
That is some serious witchcraft, and she should be peddling it if that is the case.
Again, I'd sign the F up.
Here's the thing.
Jack Nicholson had nothing to do with that.
No, exactly.
No, that's the nice thing about this movie. Yeah.
He unleashed.
No.
Technically,
he was a catalyst
because in the book
and took responsibility for
it. They called him to them.
In the book, they're a coven.
Through him.
Yeah, in the book, they're a coven, but they're very like self-organized, and they don't extend any of their powers beyond the basics of themselves. He comes in as like a chaos demon.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the devil, not the actual
lowercase
devil.
D devil.
He's a horny little devil.
He's a horny little devil. He comes in there, stirs a bunch of chaos. They get all super involved. He goes one by one. So in this movie, that reveal comes so quickly that you don't get the weird animosity.
The feeling that I kind of got was like when women's periods sync up when they hang out together too long. That it's one of those things where they don't actually really know that they have powers. They just kind of sense that something is working between them all. Because I don't think they intend to call him.
In the movie, I don't think they realize it.
No, in the book, it's a lot more explicit.
No, they realize it when the ground breaks when they're fighting. That's when they realize they have the power.
Veronica Cartwright gets killed. Like,
yeah, but that's much later.
By the way, shout out to Veronica Cartwright. Holy shit.
So
that's an amazing performance.
That's the scene where she loses it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And Jack Nicholson are like head to head with acting.
Chewing it up.
Asses off.
Also, don't book me on this one, but I really appreciate the women's power was always for their own hedonistic pleasure. They didn't target their kid's school teacher who gave them a B in second grade. They didn't get revenge. Don't book me, Dana. I see your face. You're trying to book me. I can see it.
That's actually what I like about this movie is because that's the difference between the book and the way that they act vengeful.
They're terrible in the book.
Yeah,
they're not being
really
spiteful in the movie as they are in the book.
Yeah, they're being
way more spiteful.
Well, and in the movie when they're like, "Oh, we may be harming people," they're like, "Let's stop." Like,
let's cool it. Yeah.
That's why I like when Bryce was like, I would sign up for this. I feel like I would do exactly like they would sign up for it until the point you possibly start hurting somebody.
Yeah.
And then be like, well, I don't like this.
Well,
I just want it to be witchy like I was before. Why can't I just
Then you chase them off. And you keep the nice house and the very tall butler with the huge schlong.
Like they did in the end.
The butler and everything.
Yeah.
He's always the butler. He's Luxana Troy's
I was going to
say,
that's our connection to Star Trek.
Family butler.
Well, so I think the feminism in this movie, as it should, derives from the women and the way that the women like react to their power and treat their power and treat people surround them. And the shitty, I'm going to take feminism over for my own desires and uses comes from the douchebag with a douchey ponytail.
At the same time, he is the one that unlocks their power. Like they have it, but they don't know that they have it, or they don't know the extent of it for sure, because especially at the beginning of the movie, like Susan Sarandon is a school marm who looks like the stereotypical school marm. Share, like everybody's husbands have just left them. It's like everything's wrong for them. And if they were aware of their powers, they would have already been course correcting. So it does bother me a bit that even though, yes, they come to own their power, they are still unlocked by him.
Beholden to a dude.
That's problematic.
I'm not sure that it was unlocked by him because that whole rainstorm happened before.
Because of their boredom.
Right, but they're not aware of it until...
They're not aware of it.
Totally. What Dana's saying is the consciousness of them having
they take ownership thanks to some guy.
It becomes powerful after he comes into the picture.
That's actually...
And wait, I wanted to go back for a second too, because Bryce, when you were saying that it was a consensual polyamorous affair, it was actually consensual.
No,
because the first thing that happens with Cher, like Helen said, is that she tells him off. Like she very clearly says, "You are smelly, you are ugly, you are awful. I don't want anything to do with you." She walks to the door, and there's a pause, which is clearly when he works his voodoo on her. And then turns around and everything is different, which says to me that he cast some sort of spell on her, which means that it is not consensual. Sure. And it happened with all three of them.
I mean, yes, I agree that this was full of manipulation, but in my imaginary, somebody's coming and making a deal. It's all consensual.
I'm just saying, in this case, with this role model, these were not consensual. These were women that were hypnotized into sleeping with this really unattractive.
What I don't like about even if it is consensual,
unattractive, really?
Like it's very transactional.
Oh, it's completely.
It's completely transactional.
It's only like a delightful paradise when he's
like you get something out of this, and I get something out of this.
This is why I said this is a Faustian deal, where it's like
it is. Yeah.
And this is why I don't think it's like
the contract.
When Veronica Cartwright is screaming about like the devil and Satan. I don't think it's the big ugly. I think it's just a minor kind of thing where it's all transactional and a lesser demon. Because here's the thing. I love Catholicism's mythology.
Catholicism doesn't have mythology. Indiana Jones has mythology, Randall.
Okay, but it seriously does. Angels, devils,
it's all
heaven.
Mythology.
Like, it's super fun, and I really enjoy all these kind of like lesser, like little demons that go out, like crossroad demons. Crossroad demons are super fun.
Okay, anyway, go ahead.
But that's what I understand about like. This is somebody who's going to give you something, and then you're going to get something back from it. This goes back to Ovid. This goes back to like a lot of shit.
Well, it's every devil story.
Sure.
Yeah. I love these devil deals. And that's the whole thing and the fun about this. And you get that like crazy half hour at the end.
So fun. I mean, it is not even at the end. The end is like the climax of that Like Jack Nicholson writhing on a bed, being like a freaking big cat, talking about how much he likes to have pussy after lunch is delightful. And I think I would probably jump onto that bed with him just for him being such a little pig.
Helen!
Like, he's such a creeper. He's so gross.
What?
Oh my
God.
Come on. Jack Nicholson?
Come on.
I want to see your profile swipes because they are not normal people.
And he's also like, when Susan Sarandon
he's pretty there.
Full ham on him and is like scratching up his face. And he's like, I'm just going to let it happen.
Yeah.
You know? And then with Michelle Pfeiffer, he's kind of convincing her that she's seducing him.
Right.
Like, he's very good at the whole seduction
He's
game.
disgusting.
He's a total player.
I agree with
disgusting.
Really?
He's 20 years older than them.
He is.
All of the things that you guys yell about in every other movie.
I don't know.
All of a sudden it's fine because Jack Nicholson.
Oh,
Dana,
no.
Dana, no.
I don't think
it's not okay because it's Jack Nicholson. Not in my opinion. Helen is the lone wolf.
Helen is the only one.
I don't know.
What a spicy stuff.
I'd also give it up.
And Randall, apparently.
Randall knows what's up.
Because you know what? In the book, he runs off with that
with the brother.
With the brother. So, I might have a future with him. It'll be great.
See? It's really not until like he shows his true colors and he's like,
but
that's kind of gross. You're like, okay, that's this whole time.
But that's what I mean is like the second he is not fulfilled, that's when he turns. Mm-hmm. And that's the way all these guys do. And I think that's the satire in the way that George Miller did this was, I can give you anything and everything. And you might think that you actually have control, but no, it's absolutely my needs first. And he's always been that.
The second I don't get what I want, you are the worst thing. That like you're it's so unfair to me. Why would you put me through this? You know,
it reminded me of all my college boyfriends.
I was about to say it sounds like you're describing several of my relationships.
Yeah. Like without the magical powers or the mansion. So
no magic or awesome hair.
No, some of them had awesome
hair. The narcissist love bomb followed up by the.
That's exactly what it is. This whole thing is it's a metaphor for being with the narcissist.
But that's what I think. Honestly, rewatching this now, because I watched this when I was in middle.
Like every young woman should watch this,
right?
Just to know the warning signs.
Yeah,
of this toxic. Like
I saw it when I was a kid, and it didn't help me at all.
No, you didn't take the lesson of a lesbian commune out of this.
Nope.
That should be the real lesson of this. It's
right?
Like, look, you're better off in the
commune,
coven.
Raising your children together with other women with amazing hair.
Go to the coven. You're gonna be better off.
I mean, if someone wants to provide me with a mansion, perhaps.
Sure.
And a baby.
But that just means you have to expel the demon and then take the mansion over. And then you get the manservant with the big dick.
Oh, God.
For some reason.
Huge slong.
Yeah, huge slong.
Fidel. Was that his name? Fidel?
Fidel, meaning loyalty.
The funny part for me is that I remember this from my childhood, meaning middle school.
Sure.
I remember this being way more entertaining.
Yep, I remember it being
as
wackier
opposed
too.
to very, very brutally satirical.
Well,
this isn't that.
Yeah, I turned to Randall and I asked, like, why did you, as a kid, like this movie?
I watched it because the last 30 minutes is Jack Nicholson being a Looney Tunes character.
Last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like the whole scene.
Like, it's all kind of, at the end, it's all slapstick.
Yeah.
So
that little like wisp of a demon he turns into, and then he like pops out of existence.
Which, by the way, ILM did a lot of this stuff. And they had some issues with the way that the producers of this film wanted to make this movie. If you don't know,
it's directed by George Miller.
George Miller wanted to keep this legitimately terrifying and real and fun, but also, a little bit over the top and crazy.
Makes sense.
So the producer of this film, there are two producers that you need to pay attention, which is Peter Gruber and John Peters.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know John Peters,
I do.
Yeah. He's the former hairstylist that was the boyfriend of Barbra Streisand throughout the 70s that became one of the biggest producers of the 80s. And he is let's say...
He's not a good man.
Character. At some point during filming, he got obsessed with aliens. He literally brought actors dressed up as aliens on set and was like, just shoot a scene with it. And George Miller's like, I can't fucking do this. Keep in mind, this is George Miller's first American movie.
Yeah.
He had not left Australia, really. honestly, if I ran into this
did he
bullshit,
come back to America after that, or did he just go straight back to Australia and say no, thank you?
He left to go back to Australia because of the harassment he was getting from John Peters and Peter Gruber about adapting the script, which had been in production for a long time. And so he just literally fucked off to Australia and be like, leave me the fuck alone. I want to make this movie. And then by the time he got back, there was a lot of difficulties trying to make this movie. They undermined him at a lot of points. It really wasn't until like Jack Nicholson said, like, no, I'm going to walk if you don't let him do what you need to do. Yes, there are reports that I was reading excerpts from several Cher biographies about his treatment of Cher, which is not fair to admit. But at the time, he did not select Cher for this movie, for this role.
Oh, I thought it was Susan Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon was supposed to play Alexandra, and she didn't find out that Cher got the role until she showed up.
No, she was in Italy, and she moved back to America, and that's when she found out that they had to switch roles. But
I thought it wasn't a had to. It was a like
Cher
she showed up and they
Cher wanted this. George Miller did not want this, but he was proven wrong because she would win the Oscar this year for Moonstruck.
Fucking great movie.
And honestly, she's a really powerful force.
She's very natural. Yeah, she's a really natural.
She is always Cher, though.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie where Cher isn't Cher.
I think that the way that this reads to me is that, he probably really did not enjoy this entire filming process because it sounds like it was hell.
Ironic.
Yeah, from John Peters. Just doing a John Peters film sounds like hell, no matter what you're going to do, because I just would recommend anybody looking up that man's history. There's a wonderful article on the Hollywood Reporter about how he's one of the richest producers in the business, and he's also a batshit crazy person.
There's also a really good podcast. Oh my God, you must remember this. That did a whole episode on A Star Is Born and how he destroyed that set.
Yeah,
I feel like I remember hearing stories about him.
Yeah, he's a lot. Let's just say that.
So wait, did Barbara Streisand pay him so much to be her hairdresser that he was able to produce movies?
No, he was her boyfriend.
He was dating her.
He was her boyfriend, and she
from
kind
like
of
the 70s into the 80s.
Into Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. I see.
So if you ever watch Licorice Pizza,
yes, that's what I was gonna say. That's what I was Cooper.
Like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you've ever listened to Kevin Smith talk about his experience with Superman, that's John Peters.
Yeah.
Gotcha. He's a crazy person.
That's what I was gonna. That's where I.
A lot of money.
That's where I remember reading about him.
John Peters and Peter Gruber were gods in the 80s. Let me just run you down some of the films that he produced in the 80s. Caddyshack, American Werewolf in London, Missing, Flashdance, DC Cab, Legend of Billie Jean, Clue, The Color Purple, Head Office, The Clan of the Cave Bear, Inner Space, Who's That Girl, Gorilla in the Mist, Missing Link, Rain Man, Bonfire of the Vanities, Batman Returns. It's insane. It's insane.
I would like to add that I tried to reach out to him and Peter Gruber to get the rights to do a high school production of Clue, and they never responded to me. So
yeah, because why would they?
Fuck those guys.
Horrible.
Fuck those guys.
Because they're also in their fucking 80s. They're basically sitting on whatever mound of money that they have earned over the. Oh man, these guys were gods in the 80s. It's kind of insane.
Gods.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to also kind of bring up outside of this, John Williams
soundtrack. Yeah.
Did anybody notice a little Harry Potter twinge in there?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Like a little precursor to some of that magic.
Absolutely.
I absolutely loved hearing that because I forgot when I rewatched this. I was like, oh shit, he'd scored this. And it's one of those weird moments where you kind of sit back and you go, oh, I hear it.
In the very beginning, especially in that very opening scene where they're flying into like the little town, you can get like little quaint.
I got very confused for a second when that opening scene started because I thought I was watching Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same opening as Beetlejuice.
It is very similar. You're right. Yeah.
Also, again, costume designer Aggie Rogers
synergy
did Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I can't.
Mostly in Massachusetts, Alex.
Absolutely. They actually had to change certain locations. Anybody from Boston will actually notice this. The interior of the mansion when they go into the
theater,
the hallway, that's the Wang Theater.
Yeah.
And they redid it to look like a hallway. And I was like, oh my God, that's so hilarious. Because I've been in there to see movies, theater, like all sorts of weird shit. But it's just so funny to like watch them like roll in there and be like, oh, this is my house. Look at all my sculptures.
Yeah, it's like all kinds of stuff around Boston. It's got like North Shore, South Shore, Situate, Marble.
Oh yeah,
like all those kinds of like.
There's some like Ipswich stuff that's up there.
I think like the manor house is in Ipswich.
Yeah, the manor house is in Ipswich.
I feel like it would have made more sense if it took place in Massachusetts.
Yeah, totally.
Salem,
like fucking Salem, like why Rhode Island?
Because everything John Irving writes takes place.
Well, no, it was mostly because I would say John Updike. Yeah, John Updike was from that area. And if you look at the history of the Breakers and you look at the history of like any of those houses up there. So I was trying to find something about haunted mansions and everything around that area. And I couldn't decide on it because literally everything on that fucking state is haunted. If it's over like 4 bedrooms, it's haunted. Like, I'm sorry. If you had any kind of money, it's insanely haunted.
That's like Massachusetts, the freaking house where what's her name?
Borden.
Lizzie Borden. It's still up and it is very haunted.
Well, sure, it's a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention it did not get a lot of play in this. So if there's anybody who's a fan of Doug Love's movies, he has a warning which is not for emetophobes, and this movie is definitely not for emetophobes.
Definitely not for emetophobes.
But legendary special effects makeup artist Rob Bottin, who's the guy who did a lot of practical creature effects on The Thing, he created a life-size Veronica Cartwright animatronic to do all the thrashing and vomiting.
Wow.
And they shot it, and then it was deemed too violent and realistic because audiences hated it.
I mean, I wasn't such a fan of it in the final cut. It's horrible.
Right. And that's cut really down. Bad. So there's one actual shot you can see. There's like literally a half a second of it.
I think I can imagine. It's like when she's like bent over, right?
Bent over behind the couch, and she's like doing this like twitchy shit. Yeah. So there was a whole sequence where she was spewing across the walls. That's the part
where you're suddenly like, holy shit, she's possessed.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at her and you're like, oh my God, something's wrong. And you can kind of understand why the husband took like a
fire poker.
Yeah.
Like a fire
which is also like it in the book, he kills her and then fucking kills himself. Yeah. Which is like
real dark.
Yeah,
but really dark.
I mean, they kind of might have well done it in the movie because he disappears after that anyway.
Yeah, you don't see
No,
him.
but he's there when he's talking to the police.
His book.
Yeah. And that's kind of like fucked up. I thought they should have gone the extra.
I'm okay not having read this book.
It's a dark book.
I really enjoy it.
It's a quick read. It's a short book. It's not very long.
But I think it's like 200 some odd.
You don't need
it. Doesn't resemble the movie much.
No, the movie's funner.
Oh, I forgot to mention. You know, one of the most famous things that costume designer Aggie Rogers was known for?
Pockets.
No, Princess Leia's gold bikini.
Oh wow, that's a good one. Well done.
That's a legacy.
Yeah. She also she got her start on American Graffiti. She worked on Buckaroo Banzai, Cocoon, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Grand Canyon. I like her because she takes fantasy but makes it real.
Totally.
Like
it's like a magical realism kind of thing, you know, like where it's all
you can see yourself wearing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like Beetlejuice is probably like her outsider kind of level, and that was probably pushed by Tim Burton
also,
doing like
in Beetlejuice, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, they are the normiest of normcore.
Oh yeah, that's cottagecore to a T.
So that kind of like eye for character, I think, is just.
But she would do like Grand Canyon, Benny and June, The Hurricane, Rent. Mm-hmm. She did Rent. I don't like Rent as a movie, but like costume design, great.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. It's real. It feels
being
good.
able to kind of like communicate a personality through clothing is really
it's a hard thing.
It's a hard thing to do, and when it's done really well, it's really impressive.
Yeah. She got nominated for an Oscar for Color Purple, as I said before. But I would also want to point out this year alone, 1987, she did Beetlejuice, Batteries Not Included, Fatal Beauty, and Leonard Part 6 plus this movie. That's 5 fucking.
And Leonard Part 6 was involved costumes.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Wow.
She got a career award for costume design.
Good.
And there is something like looking through the films that she's done. It's like there is something about being able to exemplar current times, but also just make it livable. you know, in a movie, because that's hard shit. It's hard to make something. I always reference When Harry Met Sally on this, where it's like it's hard to make something timeless but of its time, you know.
Yeah.
And where you could look back and go, you know what, I would wear that. Because honestly, the shit that Susan Sarandon walks in when she's got those little like the little socks with the high heels.
Oh my god, in the supermarket. That's one of the outfits I was gonna like.
Holy shit! Like that is just fashion now. That is fashion now.
She is dressed exactly like Carrie Bradshaw.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Which is funny because I should get into this. Do you want to know about like who was actually cast and all this?
Yes.
Yes.
So the fun part about this, oh my god! Speaking of Sex and the City, Kim Cattrall had auditioned for this.
Did she really?
Yeah.
She could have been Susan Sarandon.
They didn't say what role. I tried looking up a lot of this stuff because it's like when this was developed coming out of the mid 80s, because this book was written in 1984, optioned pretty much immediately because it's John Updike. Why not? The role of Daryl Van Horn was originally designed around Bill Murray.
Yes.
Totally different.
Totally different, but I would have wanted to see that.
Right? Like I could see this because you got to remember, he's coming off of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So massive supernatural hit.
I would understand being more interested in Bill Murray than I would.
Correct.
He actually is quoted the reason why he is very notorious for being hard to get a hold of.
Fast,
so
yeah.
According to the Denver Post, the only reason that he had turned it down was because he was in Paris on a sabbatical from showbiz for a year, which is also why he wasn't cast in Lost in America.
Huh.
But yeah, he was basically just unavailable in Paris.
Yeah, that's bummer.
And that's the only reason why. And then they went with Jack Nicholson, which I think is
which I'm sure they were fine.
Hilarious.
I'm sure they were fine.
Oh no,
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson, especially at that time. Holy shit.
Yeah. That was peak Nicholson.
But this is also like Bryce and I were talking about this. I think this is Nicholson the first time he starts going full ham.
Yeah.
Like Pacino level ham.
Yes.
Think of what he was doing beforehand. He was doing Terms of Endearment. He was doing Prizzi's Honor.
Terms of Endearment.
Yeah. But those are very like, Wolf was like 90. Yeah.
Yeah.
When was Batman?
Batman was 89.
89. It's right before this. He was full ham by the time he got to Batman.
Yeah.
I feel like this is also the transition from middle-aged Nicholson to creepy old man Nicholson.
Yeah.
I also am like just shocked because you said Batman was in 89 and I remember that, but I never saw it, I guess, in theaters. I just remember from replays because I would have only been 5. It was the
biggest thing since sliced bread in 89.
All over my daycare.
It literally changed the game.
All over my daycare.
I love that it's Ham Nicholson because holy shit.
Yeah.
It is an enjoyable watch.
And it needs it. I think if you didn't have that level,
oh god, yeah,
the character would be kind of unbearable.
Yeah,
you need to have that like dialed up to 11
already
extreme character.
Mm-hmm.
I think Murray could have brought a different kind of sleaze to it.
Yes.
I think he would have been scarier.
Yeah, because he would have been very quiet about
it. He would have been more understated.
Yeah.
So the turn would have been different from him.
I can't imagine Bill Murray though in like the drooly face.
Oh,
I can.
Chasing after them down the hallway.
Like, do you not remember Zombieland?
I was about to say when he turns into a zombie in Zombieland.
Yeah, Zombieland or like Razor's Edge, where he gets like really fucking abusive. Yeah, I could see it, but I also get like, you know, he fucked off to Paris. Why the hell does he care? I say. Bill Murray's doing fine.
I get it. If I'm like having a sabbatical at Paris, you know, who the fuck cares?
So
I feel like Bill Murray may be the only actor who never regrets a part he didn't take.
Yeah, he's I have an entire list that was put up by the Denver Post of all the movies that he turned down, and it's hilarious. It is a lot. It's crazy, but that's a whole another story.
That's a separate podcast. That's just an episode. That's a separate episode. That's a bonus app.
That's for Scrooge.
People that audition for these that I don't have attachments to were Kim Cattrall, Pam Grier, according to a New York Times interview.
Cool.
Right? I don't know what role, but apparently she had said that she was up
like
for
Alexandra. She'd be really cool.
That's surprising at the time. Pam Grier was not hot then.
I mean, honestly, Michelle Pfeiffer at this point is probably...
No, this was post Scarface.
Post Scarface, so she's the new hot commodity. Susan Sarandon, she's not like an A-lister at that point. But this has also been in development since basically 84. So Daryl Hannah apparently auditioned, but then turned it down for ethical reasons.
Okay.
You know, why not?
Thinking of the cherries.
Kathleen Turner.
I actually would have thought that Daryl Hannah would have been really funny to be in this because the guy's name is Daryl. And when I was watching this, I was like, how funny would it have been if she was one of the if she was the blonde one.
Also, what a fucking milquetoast name for the devil.
Daryl. But it gives it the option for him to use the D. He gets to sign things with a big D.
Daryl Van Horn, man. Come on. I dig it. I don't know.
The Van Horn I love.
Okay, your name is Randall and your brother's name is Mitchell. So
we have fanciness.
You're like English aristocrats, but
Kim Cattrall, Kathleen Turner, all auditioned for roles. Kathleen Turner was apparently going for Jane.
Yeah.
Oh.
I could see that.
Really?
Yeah. Which, makes sense when you start to realize that Susan Sarandon was originally asked to do the Alexandra role and then got shoved into the Jane role. the thing with Susan Sarandon and Cher, I think, has been overblown. There's a lot. You can go into articles all throughout.
It seems like Susan Sarandon totally ate up the role. Once she
absolutely. And you know what? Honestly, I think she owns it better than anything.
Totally. I think so.
I love it.
It's a more fun role.
And you totally understand why she's the only one who kind of still hankers after Daryl afterwards. She's the one that had the biggest awakening. She went from being totally stepped upon
by that creepy
principal,
which I'm sad his story never resolved.
Yeah, that really sucked.
I was
sexually harasses her in front of
children. For something to happen to him. You don't show that at the beginning of the movie. You don't show that gun at the beginning of the movie and not make it go off before the end.
Well, but this is what made me realize that the women never use their power for any kind of vengeance that way, or inadvertently on purpose.
Veronica Cartwright.
On purpose use their power. They were
I think in that instance it was him
handling their power.
Handling it and them not being totally aware of it.
Well, and I think that's why they reacted so strong. They're let's not do this anymore because they realized that their power could be manipulated so heinously.
And this is why I think, honestly, this is better satire than the book, is because the characters are very true to their nature. In the book, they basically are horrible people, and then they expel a demon and he fucks off with the brother, and then they just get their own spouses. They just wish themselves.
I was about to say, they don't get their own spouses. They create their own spouses.
Yeah, they create themselves happy mediums and they just live off by themselves. And it's fucked up. It's not as cohesive as this, where I think the women in this are honestly banded together and go, you know what? No. This isn't acceptable. We're not here to tear each other down. And that's why I think even though they did the whole thing with Veronica Cartwright, they felt bad about the result of that, because they're that was not what we signed up for. And that's when they start arguing with each other. And then the violence.
And they're even feeling bad about it. I mean, most of them, except for Susan Sarandon, who runs over people. They're feeling bad about it before anything really bad happens. When Michelle Pfeiffer is talking to her boss about it, she empathizes. She feels really bad that he's going through this and his wife is in a bad way.
She shows up with flowers.
Yeah.
And she screams about whores.
Whores!
Oh, that scene with her in the church. Veronica Cartwright, honestly, should have been
honestly, she should have gotten a supporting actress nod.
Absolutely. She was one of the most fun things.
So good.
She's so good in this. She's so amazing in this.
So good.
I was gonna mention can you remake this? But they've already made it
before we get to the remaking, before we get to the remaking, can we just talk about when he decides to take vengeance on them?
Oh, fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not just fucked up, but it's torture. The only one that doesn't work is Cher, but it's kind of metaphors for all of women's worst fears in the 80s.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Really, especially the aging thing just bugged the crap out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But also,
it was the pain one that bugged me.
I know, the Michelle Pfeiffer one.
Suki, where it's just excruciating pain. There's nothing that can be done. I don't know if that cold sore that she has on her face was part of it.
Yeah, that was another scene that was removed from a lot of this, but yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened with that because I thought it was like she got beat up by something, and I was like, when did this happen?
No, that was a herpy.
Yeah, it's leading into a lot of the other stuff that he's being spite and petty and vengeful, and all of it comes down to it.
I don't know that I can identify which fruit it is that he's eating when he
passion fruit.
Oh, is
whatever
it
was
with all the seeds? Yeah.
Whatever it was, the metaphor for it. I mean, I took it as her womb, that he was basically eating her womb is horrific.
Totally.
Awful.
It's
and
so
then the
gross.
fact that he impregnates all three of them without their knowledge.
Yeah.
Like there genuinely are a lot of
It's a lot of problems.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he's totally, I mean, that's hugely problematic, but I think that's also why this movie works is because they get rid of him. He's not the good guy in this. Like they do destroy him, or they try to destroy him in the end, you know?
Can't really kill the devil.
Well, he's a lowercase d devil, but I'm like, so did anybody else like recoil back into their couch at the use of his word Oriental?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like me did.
A lot. I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm like,
I was like, oh no.
Is this to show that his character is racist and therefore terrible because he's the devil, or was this just like passive racism acceptable in the 80s? And it's hard to tell.
No, I feel like when you put a word like that into the mouth of a villain, it's intentional. Like you're not doing it to be like, this is just what they said in the 80s. No, that was
I think it's also to show that he is an old hat at this shit.
Right.
Like this is something that he's been doing for so long. Like he just bounces from town to town. And he's just going to keep doing it.
Seducing the women's.
Yeah. Because in the novel, none of them are pregnant.
No.
Like there is no siring of.
That's the other thing that bothers me, though, is that now we have 3 little demon spawn
that
are just hanging out.
Antichrist.
Nobody is addressing the fact except that he's trying to teach them. Like, they're not going to be demons just because they don't see daddy occasionally.
Nature versus nurture, Dana. Are they going to be better because they have 3 women raising them in a lesbian commune?
Also, one of those babies is like 9 months old.
Environment. They're going to be like the most pro-feminine demon spawn.
Those babies had evil in their genes, and everybody should be careful because they would all be about 30 now, which means they are out there and dating.
I think the big question
that's our next
is
crime podcast.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, Dana, you can't say that because then you would say like any woman who is the victim of a sexual assault and has a child, that child is then also going to be somebody who commits sexual assault.
There is a big difference between saying that somebody was raped and was forced to have a baby and somebody was impregnated by a demon. Demon sperm creates demon.
Half demon.
It is not the same
Demons
thing.
are fallen angels.
Demons are not the
Dana, I
same
played
thing.
D&D. It's a half demon. It's fine.
Half demon.
We do not know its
demon,
alignment.
I'm just saying.
I don't
figure
like
it
this
out.
discrimination against demon kind.
It might be chaotic good and not just lawful evil.
If there are any women out there that are dating guys that seem just horrible but inexplicably horrible, perhaps they're demons, guys. Check their sperm.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
do the sperm have little horns on them?
Do they?
Takeaway.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they have a test
could
for
be
that?
red.
Can we please make a test for that?
I mean, they've got everything else for
if you're
men.
having
Oh my
red
God.
sperm,
If
oh,
red
that's not
sperm
good.
shoots out, I am leaving. I am not staying for breakfast.
Oh my
I
God.
tell ya.
Check the sperm. Check it.
Randall's gonna be like, cut out, keep in.
No,
How raunchy do you want to go?
Oh no, this is funny. We're keeping
that's staying in. That's gold. Oh,
Spermy
man.
gold.
Spermy gold.
Now,
Jesus
if it's
Christ.
gold sperm, you're fine because that's angelic sperm.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah, that's top shelf sperm. That's very good.
Yeah, like you want to save that for later.
Or Goldschlager?
Oh,
that's-
You might
that's
just
also
be
different.
really,
That
really
slices you out.
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way. Yeah, so there are several remakes of this, most on Broadway, several on television.
Are there really?
Rebecca Romaine was in one.
Yep.
Was that a Lifetime? I feel like that was a Lifetime movie.
You know, ABC Family. or something
ABC
like
did
that.
it.
I don't think I remember any of them.
For me, like, honestly, the thing about this that sticks with me, there is a charm about it that fits into that very late 80s rejection of suburbia, which also, again, that's right with Beetlehouse. It's very Beetlehouse.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlehouse.
Beetlehouse.
Don't. alone. I gotta sleep alone tonight.
Yeah. Like Tim Burton's whole rejection of suburbia. There's a lot of stuff that was coming out of this time. The Burbs, you know, like things like
David Lynch was at his finest.
Yeah, a lot of this is feeding into that. And I feel like this is along that line. And I just don't think we have it now. And I guess we're gonna find out with Don't Worry, Dear, or whatever the hell that.
Don't worry, darling.
Don't worry, darling.
Yeah, let's see if that actually has any resonance, but I don't know if it has the same kind of weight that it does in 1987.
I think you put the right people in it, and it could. I just looked it up. It's the remake hasn't come out yet, and it doesn't have cast attached.
And Eastwick was a television show in 2009 that lasted like a season.
Yeah,
at least I do think crazy.
If you put the right if it's a major motion picture, and you put the right cast in it, I think it could still have that weight.
And I don't think it would be an indictment of suburban life at this point. I think it would be an indictment of like incel life and like keeping that hidden until which is sadly a very common story. I've heard of so many women.
I could 100% see this being the guy who is virtue signaling and you know, like trying to pretend he is so progressive, and then it turns out to be
right, but he wouldn't even need to be the devil to like reveal that he's a demon at this point. Like he would just have to.
This is what I'm saying is like I don't know if you need the devil anymore. You know?
Yes, you're right.
I mean, we like the devil again.
Yeah, sure. But the trappings, like shit. We have a show called Lucifer that's been running for like 20 fucking years. About the devil being sexy and awesome.
Based on a comic series that also ran in the 80s that also made the devil empathetic and sexy and awesome.
But you need a mystical entry point. So it doesn't have to be the devil, but it does have to be demonic.
Honestly, I put this on par with something like Practical Magic or The Craft or
very Practical Magic. Totally.
Yeah, where it's in that same vein. It's really a family drama when you look at it.
But
it's lots of F words and pussy.
In the same way that The Craft, it's always imbalanced. Like the fight with The Craft is always within the coven because the men that are involved are powerless against them. So I feel like there is a man at the center of the Witches of Eastwick. You just have to accept it. It can't just be about the women. The man has to have some sort of power, or he's no match for them.
Sure.
So there has to be some demonic element to him. He can't just be an incel who's really nasty sitting in his basement. It's not going to work.
No, you're right.
And it's also way too familiar to a lot of women I know who discovered that their husbands, boyfriends, whatever, when they got too deep, had some really, really shitty thoughts about women or Roe versus Wade or any of this stuff. Like it's too real now, I feel.
Yeah.
And maybe that's my interpretation of what coven meant is very different than it was even just like 10, 20 years ago. The idea of Wiccan and coven and community, I feel, is the strongest part of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
These are women that are literally ostracized. Mm-hmm. They were already ostracized before they had their powers because you never see them actually, like nobody in the town actually gives a shit about them until they start exercising their power. And then suddenly it's like, oh, now we're going to be really bitchy towards you. Or now we're going to fire you. Now we're going to like excise you from, you know, X, Y, and Z. So they had to form their own community. And that's where their strength comes from. Right.
Yeah.
I feel like
I actually feel like if they remake this, because I think you guys are all taking it to a very like 2022 sincere place.
Sure.
But you have to also look at the other side of 2022, which is people are very comfortable with dark protagonists now.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of think we've seen a lot of like love and hearts witches in the past 20 years. I think now would be the opportunity to bring back the original characters a little bit more, where these are dark women who do shitty things, but there's a man that's doing worse things than them to them. And so it becomes a power struggle between two really flawed groups of protagonists. Yeah. To me, that's a more interesting story at this point.
That's what I wanted from Sabrina and why I stopped watching. I'm like, girl, be a bad guy.
Oh,
she is. I mean, if you stop watching, Sabrina goes full bad by the end of it.
I stopped watching the first season when they were like, Christianity versus devilness. And I'm
no. They get so dark. Like the end sucks, but seasons 2 and 3, she gets real dark.
Okay.
Real.
Love it.
And yes, I think Sabrina's a good example.
It actually, what you're describing reminds me of The Magicians too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of that kind of like.
Not the books, which suck though.
No, the books suck. The TV show is awesome.
This is really an anti-book
the rare
podcast
reversal.
today.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rare books reversal.
I love books.
No, I love books, but today, like more than any other podcast, I can legitimately say none of the books sound worse.
In this case only, I would say.
No. In these two cases, right. Magicians, the book is worse.
The TV show is far superior.
Oh, so good.
Far superior.
Quentin, oh, my heart.
Elliot.
Also Elliot.
Yeah. I did want to mention. So there's a podcast called Fish Netflix that talked about Witches of Eastwick, and one of the things they talked about, because it's all about costume design and the way that it wears, and the one thing that I will take away from this movie is its unabashed embrace of how the glow up happens, like when they realize that they are their power,
they are women.
Holy shit. And it's like measured by hair volume, literally. It's like even Cher like
Cher's hair gets bigger. How is that
Cher's
possible?
hair gets bigger. Susan Sarandon's hair is like boom.
You know that layer of the ozone that they used to warn us about in the 80s? That was entirely happening because of this.
You just gotta go like this.
Also, loyal and amazing listeners, as we're talking about amazing hair, Alex is like flicking her also giant hair around as if she's trying to like bring our attention to it.
I was gonna say you could have that amazing like blowout hair, because like holy shit. Yeah. Also, the entirety of the visual effects on this, I have to mention this because it's not really fair to bring this up without mentioning it. That entire tennis ball scene.
So good.
Right.
The CGI.
Every part of that tennis ball.
Fake.
Every serve, everything with that was all ILM. But they were only hired to do the high lift one where it stops. And then it does like the little things, and they're doing that.
Yeah.
But they turned out to be so bad at tennis that they were like, you know what? Just swing your rackets and we're just gonna fill it in post. And ILM did it for them.
Even on the regular tennis bits.
Yep. Like just the regular tennis bits.
That explains why they were so good.
Right? Because I was watching it, I was like, holy shit, they're really good.
4 of them able to like
just pick it up and be really, that's magic right there.
Like just watching that wide shot, it was like bam, 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 bam. I'm like, fuck, that's really awesome. And I'm like, no. And of course, that's ILM.
ILM's really awesome.
ILM
doing their job.
Yeah, the alpha and the omega of special effects.
Well.
I think that's a good place to end it.
Yeah, when we're talking about tennis skills, I think that's the end for us.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love that.
Did anybody have anything else to add about this? I had like one extra thing, but I think it's really dumb.
I'd say it's totally just worth the rewatch. I think
it is.
It holds up.
I enjoyed my first watch of it, but I think I would have missed the point entirely had I watched it when I was young.
I mean, I think we all did, to be honest.
I forgot how racy it was.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, yeah.
Weirdly.
Talking about dicks and pussy and...
the language, very salty.
This is why things don't need to be sugared down for kids. It doesn't process.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't remember any of that.
I did remember specific scenes really clearly. Like you mentioned that scene with Michelle Pfeiffer bringing flowers to the hospital.
Yeah.
I remember that very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Remembered Jack Nicholson riding on the bed like a giant pussycat.
Horny devil.
Yes. Susan Sarandon and the cello and like blowing that cello until it catches fire.
The cello bit, yeah.
I remember the cello. Stress, if everybody was not aware, Susan Sarandon, Cher, and Michelle Pfeiffer were goddamn hot. Susan Sarandon and Cher were 40 when this movie was filmed. So good for you, ladies. Good for you. Because most people in the 80s that were 40 looked 60 by today's standards. So good for you.
Also, I was commenting to Helen while we were watching. I was like, a young Michelle Pfeiffer looks a lot like the girl from Lucifer looks a lot like a young Michelle Pfeiffer. I was just like shocked at how much.
Without like the range that Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes, totally. But I just mean like physicality wise.
So this is the one thing I would add. The outfit that Cher wore.
The little cutouts on the side?
Yeah. The Aaliyah fish sticks?
Fish sticks?
Fish sticks?
No.
Okay. You said fish sticks.
I saw that too.
Tunisian couture designer.
It's an Alaya. It's an Alaya.
Yeah. Azzedine Alaya.
There we go.
Designed that cutout dress. Like, it's not even a dress. It's just the bottom half, right?
Yeah. On one side.
Yeah, on one side cut out. Yeah. He designed that. And then Cher got Bob Mackie to do the tube top in the same fabric to match.
Oh. Nice.
That sold a while ago, but it sold for like $15,000.
Of course it did.
Not as much as I thought it would.
It's insane to think about the fashion in this movie.
A lot of fashion, yeah.
When you watch it, holy shit, when they're in the room with the bubbles, like
and they're all wearing those like tour like outfits. Totally.
Yeah. But even like
the dream, guys.
I love the shit when like Cher shows up and she's just in that like basic top and like a little skirt on the bike. And then meets him.
So freaking cute.
And it's so cute, right?
Peasant skirt and then like that like crop top.
But then
it looks fantastic.
Everything
Susan Sarandon in the very like when they have that assembly and she's got that full skirt with the
like the tulle skirt and like
so cute.
The outfits are really cute. And I would like to wear them, but at the same time, I also just really like my sweatpants. And
shapewear sense.
I know. I'm wearing leggings right now. It's fantastic.
Just really like leggings.
Love leggings.
Elastic bands. Great. Thank you.
Now that they put pockets on leggings, guys, it's revolutionary.
Oh, I'm putting my hands in my legging pockets right now.
Oh, so good.
This is the jaunty dance of somebody with leggings pockets.
No, we've devolved it to leggings talking. It's time to end this.
Yeah, this is where it ends. This is where it ends.
Have a good night.